Okay.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Silver Screen Show, virtual. We're still virtual until we can get back to getting into our conference room again. But I'm joined here today with Chris, and we will be reviewing Promising Young Woman. So we're just post-Oscars, so we're just catching up with all of our Oscar nominations and wins and things. And so we'll jump in with Promising Young Woman. And so this was written and directed by Emerald Fennell, starring Carey Mulligan, Bo Burnham, Alison Brie, and quite a few other cameos of people that you might recognise from various TV shows and movies, like Adam Brody, Jennifer Coolidge, and many others. And it's basically a young woman who's traumatised by a past event, seeks out vengeance against those who were involved in that event. And there's quite a lot of twists and turns. Personally, I didn't see the end coming. I was quite surprised by that. So if you enjoy kind of a bit of a thriller and a bit of surprise at the end, then you might enjoy this. So I'm going to throw it over to Chris for your overall thoughts for Promising Young Woman.
It's a rape revenge thriller from the modern age. I mean, this isn't the first style of that. I mean, you have I Spit on Your Grave coming back from the 1970s. What's different here is that it's got not just a contemporary take on all the issues within society, but it's willing to hold all of society to account for what has happened in this individual instance. Unlike previous ones, as I've mentioned, I Spit on Your Grave, which holds only grievances against the men contained in the film, this is a film that has a real feminist anger relating to the experiences of all women, essentially, and relating it back to this fundamental pain and hurt of Carey Mulligan's character and the injustices that she and the women around her have received. Now, sometimes it's very broad in its attacks, but it's never dishonest, and it never feels like you're disagreeing with what's being said. And it's completely captivating throughout, especially from a wonderful performance by Carey Mulligan, and what I would have to say would probably be my favourite performance of her total.
That's really saying something. I completely agree, actually. It really does hold everyone accountable. Anyone who was involved in the event whatsoever not only had their comeuppance, but were also they were also viewed as well as like their experience of the event, and you know, the normal kind of excuses that some people come up with when they're in that experience. So like, for example, I'd say the dean, when she's saying like, he was such a good student, and he had a promising future and all this. It's all things that we've heard, and we are still hearing. And I think that's why this film is really important now, because like, obviously everyone knows everything that's been happening in the past couple of months in England, and it's always the same kind of excuse. It's like, it was just a bit of fun, didn't know any better, they're just kids, all this kind of stuff. And it's things that a lot of women, as you say, like, have experienced, and it spoke to me, and it sparked a conversation as well. And I just think it's really important. And I agree that Carey Mulligan's performance was incredible. The way she could switch immediately between one characterization and another, like when she was on her nights out, or when she was talking to Bo Burnham in their scene at the end, and it was really, really captivating, and I just couldn't look away from it. I was just enthralled the entire way through. But are there any negatives that you could point out?
So overall, I mean, I'm not here to be trying to bash the film for sure, but if I was to pick out some points, some scenes are hitting it broadly. I mean, it's never supposed to be an entirely realistic thing. It's supposed to be a concoction of all of the arguments against the misogynistic society we live in today. But if I was to pick up the opening scene, is certainly hitting it broad, when they've got the guys talking about how their female colleague can't do work meetups at the golf club because the golf club won't allow people in. It's like, yes, this certainly happens, but of course, there's so many other points that they're trying to bring into this film. That one just didn't quite land for me, that because it's confronting rape culture, not work culture. So that one was just one too many, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I thought that was a bit odd, because certainly in my industry and the people that I know who are quite high up corporate wise, you don't really see that anymore. A lot of the time, obviously there are still inequalities in people's work, but I feel like that, yeah, like you say, it's pretty hitting a broad thing. It's like, focus on what you came here to talk about, rather than trying to hit every single aspect of gender inequality.
Yeah. The screenplay itself, I mean, like I said, if you took, an hour after watching it and tried to dissect the screenplay, you'd be like, well, that wouldn't quite make sense. But when you're with the energy of the film and feeling its anger, it does all come together quite effectively within the moment, especially through some fantastic supporting performances. Alfred Molina, that was a really interesting turn, and that certainly wasn't the way you expect that confrontation to happen.
I was very shocked actually in that scene, and I felt I would have pointed that scene out as one of the ones that kind of took me out of it a little bit in the moment. But when I went back and I thought about it, and I was like, that could 100% be the case, a kind of lawyer who loses sleep over what he thinks. But the scene in the moment was very much like, oh, okay, that's not how I expected that scene to go. But yeah, it was overall very, very interesting. And I think, the end was quite, again, not 100% realistic. But by that point, you're so invested in the character, and also this character that we never get to meet. Like, you're angry on her behalf as well, and you're sad for her, and you empathize and you sympathize with Cassie and Nina. And by the point that we get to at the end, where it's sort of like comes out of brings you out of the whole realism of it, you don't care by that. I didn't care by that point. I was just like, go do it. Go for it. So what would you rate the movie out of 10?
It's a magnificent film that really captures the Me Too energy of the times. I think the slight niggles we've got, as we've saying, it's never intended to be overly realistic, but there are times it pushes it too far, it takes you out a little bit. So, all that in mind, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10. Yeah,
I would also go an 8 out of 10.
Oh, fantastic.
Purely because it's not perfect, and like you say, there are aspects of, there's always going to be that extra ness of a movie, especially whatever the subject matter is and whatever kind of movement it's related to. There always has to be an element of disbelief, because at the end of the day, this is a movie, and it's not based on an event. It's based on things that do happen. So it's not like a documentary or anything, or based on one true story. So it has that kind of artistic license and freedom to play with the story a little bit more. But no, overall, I really enjoyed it as well, and I was very, very engrossed in all of the performances. And yeah, there's definitely a couple of twists and turns in it that I think people will enjoy. So any final comments about Promising Young Woman?
Nope, I think we've covered everything. I hate to finish Promising Young Woman talking about a man, but I thought Bo Burnham was very good in it as well. I've known him much more as a director from 8th grade before this, but seeing him as an actor shows he can put that side on as well. Well,
I'll jump on that too. Bo Burnham, I know him more as a comedian. I've seen clips of his stand-up. So to see him in this kind of film, the comedy was definitely there, which was a really good contrast actually from the really dark content. And the kind of emotionally upsetting things. But no, I thought he was really, really good. And Carey Mulligan. We're going to finish on Carey Mulligan and her performance.
Oh, fantastic performance, yeah.
And there's no one else that I'd rather spit in my coffee than Carey Mulligan. All right. Thanks very much, and we'll see you for the next video.